All right, welcome back in, hockey fans. Episode 3 of the new Pro Hockey West Report. Scott Strande with you tonight, live from Denver, Colorado. Nick Maxson with us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And, of course, Stephen Marsh, our one and only Las Vegas guy, hanging out in the beautiful, 110-degree heat today, Stephen?
Yeah, that's what it was today, 110. No rain today. Like,
though, right?
no. Today was a dry heat, yes. We had some rain, though, in the last couple of days, so that bumped the humidity up a little bit. But yeah, today was dry.
It was 100 degrees in Colorado today with rain starting about noon. Reminds me of being back in Arizona, monsoon type stuff, where it just dumps on you for a little while and then quits. I'm going, I didn't know this happened in Colorado, but whatever. We're Stanley Cup champs. We're NCAA champs. We got a solid team up in Loveland. We got the high school champs at Denver East Angels. We got the Five Nations tournament coming up in Colorado Springs shortly. It's a hockey state. I can't say the state of hockey, but I can say the hockey state. Correct, Nick?
You can say that it's the center of hockey in the United States, but state of hockey has been trademarked. Yes.
Yeah. I figured it had. I used to live there, you know. Anyway,
they wouldn't allow you back in Minnesota, Scott, if you took that away from them.
Yeah, no, I got to be careful because I got to be back up there in October, right? Anyway, glad to be back on. Development camps are officially over with. That's where I want to start tonight. We're going to do a little development camp stuff. Stephen got a great feature with Connor Ford, one of the former college players that moved on to the Henderson ranks. Then we'll talk about something that I found really interesting. I sent it all to you guys. Cap Friendly was a great website. You love to go there and check out the cap numbers. They are so accurate. But I've never seen them do this. They put together a preseason roster who they thought players that were going to be on their NHL roster. Then they put their minor league guys who are currently under contract. Then they put some guys that are on loan, as we know, which goes to junior teams or college teams or whatever. Then they had a group of guys that are considered prospects that are definitely not going to be in the professional ranks this year, or it doesn't appear that way, and go from there. So I thought it was kind of fun. So we took our 9 teams that we cover. I gave everybody 3, and we'll talk about them in the second half of the show. But let's kick things off with the development camp. Stephen had a chance to get out and see some. I saw some of the Avalanche. Nick was seeing things from the internet, I'm certain.
One way to phrase it.
One guy's got to do work around here. The other 2 of us just kind of lounge. But anyway, I'm going to kick it off right with this. One of the things that I love about development camp in the NHL is they bring in the young guys. They give them a real workout. They give them a real introduction to what it's going to be like as a professional hockey player. And then a majority of them get sent right back to college or juniors or whatever. But one thing that always catches my eye is they always save the last day of camp, or usually it's the last day of camp, where they go do something special. And I was telling you guys off air that I thought Colorado's this year was really unique. They sent them up to an incline. It's basically a stepped mountain climb just south of Denver and closer to Colorado Springs, basically. And this year, the Avalanche strapped a GoPro onto one of the players, and they got like 2.5, 3 minutes of pure gold of these guys going up and coming down. And keep in mind, these are athletes now. It's not like me trying to make this trek.
Don't.
But anyway, they made the climb and just the experience. So shout out to the Colorado Avalanche for it. But to me, guys, that's the unique part about this is it's not just about hockey, but as Stephen can tell you, there was a lot of training about how to meet the media and how to do stuff like that. Preparing themselves to handle off-ice stuff. But there was also speed and skill, and we all saw that in the camp. And the Avalanche camp was about as fast as I've seen a development camp go. It was run by Greg Cronin for most of the time, the head coach at the Loveland, Colorado Eagles group. So let's start right there. That's what I saw. We'll get to Stephen in a minute. Nick, what did you see and what did you hear on Twitter about development camps around the NHL and AHL?
The one common thing that I'm seeing is, and you touched on already, is the speed. I think there's, no question with Colorado and the way that they've been built have kind of set a new tone with how speed really is in the NHL. It's been trending that way towards speed and skill for the last 10 years since really the post 05 lockout, really, Scott. And you're starting to see really the indoctrination of the speed and the emphasis on speed in development camps. Let's not forget, not that long ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, development camps, they're a big deal to these young players and they're a big deal to the organizations. But really, it's becoming more of a teaching ground. It's becoming more of, it's a physical evaluation. It's a mental evaluation. So one big name that Minnesota Wild fans have been getting is second-round pick Hunter Height. In fact, he was just recently added to the Canadian World Junior Championship roster as part of their prelim invitee. So he made some big noise, and the big part of that was this guy can skate like a bat out of you-know-where. He's just incredibly quick on his feet, matches that speed in his hands. He's got really good vision, good puck skills. So again, it's been about speed, and we're seeing also the integration too, Scott, with the college coaches. You said David Carl in attendance too with the Colorado Avalanche. You're starting to see this link between the NCAA side as well as the professional side, really trying to essentially just continue to build that pipeline of youth and development. So that way, the NCAA hockey program, you can sort of transition as easily and as, uninhibited as you can to the pro ranks once you're done with your collegiate career.
Good stuff. Steven, what did you see in the Vegas camp? I know you weren't overwhelmed by some of the stuff, the scrimmages, but nonetheless, exciting?
Yeah, it was very exciting. For one, and this is what you expect from Vegas. They know how to get fans out. And at practice in the middle of July, most of the scrimmages were pretty full in City National Arena. And they did one for just season ticket holders on Saturday. So that's pretty cool that they're doing that for that. It wasn't necessarily overwhelming in that regard, at least some of the perspective from some of the other media that were there too, covering it, that are, that know the team inside and out. But, there were some standouts, of course. Caden Korzak was one that, really stood out. Of course, he's one that's going to be really high on the radar for the Golden Knights organization. He's going to probably get maybe a look at the NHL level, depending on how the roster might look. But certainly we'll look to have a really good year at Henderson, if not. So he's certainly one that's going to be going. The goaltending was another thing. I mean, there wasn't a lot of scoring in these scrimmages. And, the scrimmages, like I said, the Cormiers, the top people, they weren't putting the puck in the net. But, they had their moments. But the goaltending kind of stood up on its head a little bit. Isaiah Seville, Whitehead, Jesper Vickman. So the goaltending depth seems to be pretty good, and we don't know where exactly each will fall. I'm sure Whitehead will probably go back to where he was playing before, and then Seville, of course, got some time here in Henderson last year. Of course, just finished a career in Omaha, and Vickman's been in the organization a little bit. So we'll have to see where those guys will fall when the season starts, because we'll get to the teams later. But Henderson has got some good goaltenders already in the organization. So, but the goaltending was pretty good. They had some moments there. They really were able to stop the puck. I just kind of looked more at just how the players conducted themselves. They really loved the whole experience of being there. They got to talk to the media, several different players throughout the week. I attended a few of those the days I could go, and just some of the way that they conduct themselves, and as we said, they get a little bit of training on how to answer media questions, how to do that, social media, how to use those tools. But some of these players, they're really articulate in their answers. You have somebody like Abram Weeb, who was just drafted by the Golden Knights, and the way he commanded the podium when he got in there, was confident in what he was saying with the questions that were being asked about his game and the way camp went. I asked him about their experience of going to T-Mobile and Dollar Loan Center, which they got to do this during the week. And he has a very articulate answer about describing T-Mobile and talking about how the rows went up and stuff. So he was very detailed in that. And then the Dollar Loan Center as well. So, that's just having that sort of and this kid pretty young. So I mean, that's important because you need those kind of skills to be. But yeah, just the cooking classes, the all the things that they could, the
Cooking.
training,
I love it.
cooking.
I need to
Yeah,
actually
cooking
give
class.
me some cooking classics too, man.
Well, maybe go to VGK development camp next year. You might learn
Maybe that's what
some
I need to
cooking
do.
skills. But yeah, I mean those things are important because as we talked about on previous show, if they may not know those skills yet because they're still pretty young, and a lot of these kids maybe just leaving, being out on their own for the first time, and so those are important things. But there's also what's good about these camps too is usually a mix between you've got these young players that are right out of college or just starting college or in the AHL already, or maybe a year or two in that. So there's those guys that can kind of help mentor the younger kids, and
Yeah.
you'll hear that with Connor Ford a little bit. He was able to talk about that, and just talking about the being able to have that. The whole, and this is also a time for the whole organization to come together in a sense. The Henderson coaches were there. The new head coach of Savannah was there. Rick Bennett, and you talk about Rick Bennett. He's a guy that's got some NCAA experience. He was the head
Yep.
coach for Union College for a lot of years, and so he knows the college game. He knows how that atmosphere, and so having these college kids there, the ones that are in camp, he can lend his expertise about how to handle that and stuff. So all that's important, and I think and all the scouts and stuff. So while the on ice stuff is important, and I said on last week's show, I think the off ice stuff is just as important, especially for the really young guys that are just starting out. And then a lot of the sound bites you heard, they seem to value that just as much as they did the on ice stuff.
Nick, we've been talking a lot about the transition being closer and closer now. The guys in the top NCAA programs are making that transition. But one thing we see, and I'll use a guy like Wyatt Ahmet as an example again. He played really, really well for a high-end program at Minnesota State. He came in, I saw him play with the Colorado Eagles. He was really, really solid with the Colorado Eagles. David Rennick went from St. Cloud State to the Ontario Reign. But there still seems to be something that says it's really hard and you really have to be special to just make that jump to the NHL. Can you put a finger on how they can be so close yet so far?
It's really tough, right, Scott? Because if you look at, players that made the jump, and let's just, we've talked about him before. Let's talk about a Cale Makar, right, who made an immediate impact when he joined the NHL. And in fact, he's almost rewriting the book on how to be an NHL defenseman as we speak. He's won a few awards last time I heard and checked, the NHL stats books. But honestly, if there's anything I can point to, Scott, it would be scheduling. I mean, if you look at the Canadian junior leagues, the Ontario Hockey League, the QMJHL, the WHL, they're playing pro schedules. They're playing a lot of hockey, so they're getting a lot of experience. They're getting a lot of ice time. They're getting that pro schedule already sort of instilled with them at a young age. And for the NCAA programs, and you can even throw the Canadian colleges in there too, right? In this conversation, it's 2 weekend games. It's one good thing is it's scripted. You do have good talent pool, but I just think the lack of just their schedule could be it. Because again, you talk about development, you can have all the skill drills, you can have all the skating drills you want, but there's nothing that takes away from the end game feel and what you really learn when you play the game. I mean, you talk about how Minnesota is such a breeding ground for good NHL players. It's the backyard rinks is when it gets to be 40 below out in our backyards, and it's like we breathe and the air sinks, it doesn't rise. It's that cold, but it's hot on the hockey rinks. I mean, that's you learn to play the game that way. It's just that experience and being able to have that competition. To me, if there's anything that may point to it, it's just a lack of NCAA schedule. Okay,
so Stephen, I want to throw this one back to you because we've talked about the pandemic and what it's done over the past couple of years. And one of the things I'm still seeing is guys seem to be really more motivated, right? They saw what they almost lost. They realized that it could be pulled away from them in a heartbeat, literally. And are you still seeing that love for the game? You talked about these guys that you saw and their detail, attention to detail, but are you seeing that love for the game still? It's like, hey, man, I'm just here to get better because I lost this game for a year and I don't want to lose it again.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely. I think you definitely are seeing that. And for the Golden Knights, they didn't have a development camp the last couple of years, so this is the first one for even guys that were drafted last year and the year before to have this opportunity. They did an online one, which has been talked about, but this obviously is the first one in person again since 2019. So, yeah, you're right. There's been a bit of that um, desire again to do that, and I just said I could see just seeing the players coming through and thanking the off ice people, all the people that helped the training and everything, and just their appreciation for the week that they got to experience in Vegas. I mean, Vegas did it right. I mean, they also got to see a Cirque du Soleil show. They got to go to a AAA baseball game. I mean, they got to go down to the Strip. I mean, what other development camp prospects got to experience that? You know, they got the Vegas experience. For as I said, they got to tour T-Mobile and Dollar Loan Centers here. So I mean, yeah, if that doesn't, if all those things don't motivate you, you know, obviously the Strip is a different beast, but I mean, to motivate you to play in a place like T-Mobile or the Dollar Loan Center for the AHL, it's I think that really is good. And you know, all these guys are gonna make the NHL. I mean, that's just the realistic thing of it. But you know, there's always a gem that you can find. You know, you look at and he did a Q&A with the prospects this year. You look at a Zach Whitecloud. He's somebody that kind of came through the camps and worked his way, and now he's he really progressed, and now he's an established guy on the NHL roster. So you will get those kind of players, and so that makes these camps really important in that regard because you look at a Zach Whitecloud, you know, who was one of those young guys starting out in those camps and a young prospect, and now he's an established NHL defenseman and a very good one. So, so that's why these kids just have to keep at it and just soak in as much experience as you can because that's important. I want to share one other thing too as we talk about some things that I thought, and I've never think of it this way. You know, we think about evaluating. We see a lot of evaluating during this week, and I thought something that Tim Speltz, who's the general manager of Henderson Silver Knights, said. He talking about, you know, he was asked about evaluating players, you know, what would maybe be on the AHL roster or whatever, and he said something that I thought was interesting. He said that he tries to evaluate players relative to themselves. You don't necessarily evaluate them maybe to the other players because each player is going to be at a different level. You've got the guys that are just starting out at the college. You got people that have pro experience. So you evaluate from what you know of them and where they were at, and if they progressed to where you expect them to be, not comparing them to others. So I mean, there's some of that, but you evaluate them to themselves and where they are at as a player themselves. And I just thought that was very interesting because I think sometimes we do a lot, and in life too, we do a lot of comparisons to others, and we try to, and I think that can be a bad thing sometimes because not everybody's on the same level, and that's okay. But how are you progressed from where you were maybe when they first saw you, first gave you a chance, drafted you wherever, to where you are maybe 2 or 3 years? So these guys that are just been drafted, where are they going to be in 2 or 3 years after they've had some more, either the college or go back to their junior game or wherever? For these young AHL guys that just came on from college, where are they going to be now? Is they're probably going to get a look at some more AHL time or maybe down at the other level, the ECHL or wherever. So that's important too. Is each player individually and where they're going to be themselves individually.
Good stuff. Okay, before we go to Steven's feature, we'll throw it to him in just a minute. Nick, I want to ask you about this because one thing that's unique about the NHL is all the teams are different. Like I saw the Stanley Cup Champions development camp. You're talking about the Wild. They're kind of in the middle. Henderson and the Vegas Golden Knights are on the rise, trying to get back up to the top. But there's a discrepancy between what they need to add to their big clubs and their AHL clubs at every different stop. So when you look at guys drafted, like some guys like a Shane Wright, I think is going to go right to Seattle. I don't think he's going anywhere else. Logan Cooley, high draft pick from the Coyotes, but it's pretty clear that he's going to the University of Minnesota and not signing that entry deal right now. Talk a little bit, Nick, if you can, about the uniqueness of that and what it brings for hockey fans that are excited. You see this kid drafted, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, he's going back to college. Or, yay, I'm in Seattle. I get to see this guy.
So let's set the table a little bit, right, Scott? So let's look at two other professional sports leagues in the U.S. Let's talk about the NFL and the NBA, right? When you talk about first-round picks in those two leagues, you're not debating whether they're going to be on the roster. You're debating whether they're going to be almost starting
Right.
for now squads, when they get picked. What's unique about the NHL is even a first overall pick at times doesn't necessarily mean that they make an opening roster or that transition, as we keep talking about, between whether it's amateur hockey, semi-pro, AAA, you name it, to the pros. That gap is still quite big from the junior level. So, let's go Shane Wright, and this is where the uniqueness of the NHL is. Seattle, again, a team that was an expansion club, had the expansion club growing pains, right? They're looking for offense. Their offense was very anemic last season. Shane Wright, a touted offensive player, he may just by default be injected in the lineup. Let's go to Arizona. You mentioned Logan Cooley. Again, another guy with tremendous skill, a natural centerman, a position of need with the Arizona Coyotes. But because of these young kids have these opportunities and they also have these commitments, Logan Cooley heading to the University of Minnesota for his freshman season. So what's unique is you have fan bases that see these talents. You see what's being talked about them. You hear about it. You see the development camps. You get some video on them. You get excited, but then you go, wait a minute. How long is it going to be until I see this guy? And this is where hockey lags behind on those other two, which is some of these kids who shine and are high draft picks. Sometimes they tend to hit an own glass ceiling where they still don't continue to develop. And then you have guys, let's take a couple of names I think all three of us would know. Let's take a fifth rounder, Kaprizov.
Right.
He's made a name. How about this? Let's go even further than that. Let's take a sixth round pick in Henrik Zetterberg and how about a seventh round pick in Pavel Datsyuk, right?
Right.
It's such a, pardon the French, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? Where in hockey, the talent level continues to get better. It continues to get deeper, but it's still far behind in terms of the development process where the NFL and the NBA is, where, draft nights, and the reason why they're so televised with those two sports is you see those players on that same screen in about 60 to 120 days at maximum. Whereas with the NHL, you may see some of those guys. And when I say some, I mean maybe a handful if you're lucky on opening day NHL rosters. And most of them are really going back to juniors. If they're from Canada, they're going to the NCAAs. Maybe the minors, that's rare, maybe back overseas. There's not as much of that excitement where you're seeing that player getting drafted and then being inserted directly to the NHL lineup. And so it's getting there. We've had better draft classes. We've had also some thin draft classes. But, the one thing that I can say, Scott, is, over these last couple of years, the talent pools, they're getting better. They're getting more skillful. They're getting more deep. And the game of hockey continues to grow in skill. It continues to grow in fan interest. So it's a process, just so that we can continue to kind of climb the ladder. And I think with the ESPN media rights, hoping that gives it a nice bit of boost too.
Can't hurt. Stephen, you had a chance to visit with one of the guys in the Henderson/Vegas development camp. I'm familiar with his roommate. I know where he went to school his last year. But there were some interesting things. So why don't you set us up, and we'll jump into the interview shortly.
Yeah, so we're talking about Connor Ford. He spent 4 years at Bowling Green. Obviously, because of COVID, he got a fifth year. So he went to North Dakota, and he talks about that in the interview, about his experience in North Dakota and why that's such a great spot. And then, of course, he got his taste of pro hockey this past spring playing with Henderson in the final few games of the season, actually 11 games. And he also got his first professional goal during that time. And back in April, he signed a one-year AHL deal, so he'll be with Henderson, expected to be with Henderson, of course, for this upcoming season after signing a one-year deal. So during development camp, I did have a chance to speak with Connor Ford, and we are going to play that for you right now. Well, we're back at the Golden Knights development camp, the Pro Hockey West Report. We're talking with Connor Ford. First of all, Connor, just tell me about what this means to be here at development camp this week. You've been in the organization a little while. You played with Henderson a little bit. But what does it mean for you to be back here for development camp this week?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great opportunity for me to get in front of management on the Vegas side of things and the coaching staff and get familiar with more people within the organization. And at the same time, meet more players, meet more guys that are in the organization. It's my first time at this development camp. So really it's just it's another opportunity for me to get more comfortable playing hockey in the desert.
Now, what has been some things that you've learned this week here at development camp? Like, what were some things that maybe a couple of things that really stuck out to you that maybe you can take away to help throughout the summer and going into next season that help you?
Yeah, the first few skates, we worked on a lot of technical skills and definitely some drills to take away and work on, and as long as also the off-ice stuff we've been working on, the seminars have been great information, great knowledge to take away and improve my game. All of us can improve our game on and off the ice moving forward.
And what has it been around being around some of these other players? I mean, some of the younger ones too that are just kind of starting out in their in their journey. You finished your college career and you've had some pro games, but some haven't had that yet. So how's it been like to have that kind of this?
It's been cool to meet a lot of these guys, and a lot of them have had questions that I've been able to answer because I've had a lot of experience playing hockey at a high level. And guys that are going into college or guys that are making the transition to pro, I've done both now. So I think I've been a great resource for the younger guys in the room over the last week.
I want to ask you about look back at your NCAA career a little bit. You've played for Bowling Green. You had the year at North Dakota. What did you see from the level of NCAA hockey just in your time there, and how good is the hockey there now? Maybe from when you started playing there to when you left college. Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't a highly touted prospect going into college. Bowling Green gave me a fantastic opportunity to play first and foremost and grow my game. And without the opportunity, I wouldn't be where I am today. Ultimately, I got the extra year due to COVID, and I was able to go to the place which I believe is the best spot in college hockey in North Dakota. And it's just a different level of intensity up there, a different level of it's hockey. It's all hockey up there. And I got to improve my game. I learned a lot from that coaching staff, learned a lot from the guys that were up there, matured my game even more, and it helped me step right into Henderson in the spring.
And just as a general sense, just your time in there, just what is the skill level there? Because it seems like as it's going on, the players coming into college ranks are getting much better and are more prepared when they do make it into the pro ranks.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to take time to grow into your body, because when you step into the American Hockey League, you're playing against grown men, and these 18-year-old kids coming out of junior, 19, they haven't played against anybody over the age of 21 yet. And there's a big difference between a 21-year-old and a 30-year-old out there. And in college, you expand that to 24, 25-year-olds. With COVID years, even 26-year-olds now. So that level of hockey is just increasing in terms of speed, strength, skill, everything. So the product coming out of college hockey is only going to get better.
Okay, let me ask you now about we said you spent some time in Henderson. You got to play the last little bit of their season there after you finished your college career there. How important was that to get some time in Henderson and to get some of those games under your belt and just be able to in your early career here?
Yeah, that was huge to get a feel for where I need to be, what works, what doesn't work at the next level, because it is an adjustment. It's a different level of hockey. There's different guys have different skills. They're better at different things. Some things are available or not available that were available in college, and there's really no way to describe it besides doing it. You got to go out there and learn, and throw you to the fire and sink or swim. And yeah, I was super fortunate to get 12 games in there, including a playoff game, which I think is only going to help me coming into this fall.
Okay, now what is some of the areas of improvement when you leave camp this week and just you go into the summer and then you go into the fall, rookie camp and all the things that come? What's going to be your focus this summer to continue to build yourself for
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously bigger, faster, stronger. Everybody's trying to do that every year. But the technical stuff, working with Scott Jones, it's another level of technical skill to add to my game, and I'm always looking for stuff to make me better and more effective out there. So a lot of those technical drills, I'm going to take those and run with them the rest of the way.
All right, I'm going to end with this. There is a NCAA game coming to Vegas this fall, and of course, it's one of the teams you're familiar with, North Dakota and ASU at T-Mobile. How excited are you for that? And will we see you in attendance at that game?
I am waiting for the Henderson schedule to come out so I can know if I can go or not. But if I'm available, I will be there.
Well, hopefully, maybe you won't be on the road that week, and Henderson will have a game, so you can be there.
Yeah.
But Connor, we thank you for taking a few minutes here after the development camp, and good luck this summer, and we'll hope to see you in Henderson this year.
Thank you.
Well, one of the things right there at the end, I asked about the big game at T-Mobile Arena this fall between North Dakota and ASU, and I asked him. I said, are you going to be going? And he said, I'm sure the schedule's already out there. It's not released yet, but I'm sure it's already been scheduled. But he's hoping that they don't play that night or that they're on the road because he wants to be there in attendance. So, and we could say the same about Joey DeCourt in Coachella Valley, who's an ASU alum. I'm sure he'd love to be in attendance at T-Mobile Arena in October for that game. But I don't know. You guys had a chance to watch the interview too. Maybe something you got from that.
Well, I'll tell you right off the get-go. He's a seasoned vet, 5 years in NCAA hockey, finishing up at North Dakota. I thought a couple of the comments that he said about North Dakota preparing him pretty well for what he's seeing now. I also thought he mentioned about the age difference and watching the 18-year-olds come in and having to play American Hockey League guys in their late 20s, early 30s. Some of those guys are big men, right? They throw their body around. It's a different style. You don't see that in junior hockey. You don't see it in NCAA hockey. So it's a big jump. So that's what I took away from it.
And to kind of piggyback off that, Scott, it's really is an eye opener sometimes when, again, you're bringing in, these seasoned AHL veterans that are up there in age and they like to throw their body around. The NCAA's, when you watch practices, they're physical, they're board battling, they're checking, but there's still kind of, a 60 to 70% thing that they're doing. Whereas in this day and age in the AHL, it's full bore. And so, you're really battling at 100% to try to make an impression. You're trying to make a case that you belong either currently with that team in the A, or, hey, can I make a push for the big club, the show at the NHL? And so, and again, it's that player development. Again, the coaching staff at North Dakota does such a tremendous job. Hearing Cummington on that, and of course the NCHC, the best conference in college hockey. We could go on for a long time about that, Scott. But again, all important steps. Really like his insight, and will be fun to watch his journey as we go through something that he's having the first time go around here in the pro ranks.
Yeah, it'll be real exciting. I'm excited to see him in a full season and how he does. So we appreciate his time last week during development camp. We appreciate the Golden Knights too for helping us get that interview as well. So thanks to all of them.
All right, time for a break.
Time for a break. We'll catch you guys here on the flip side.
All right.
The NCHC, where the best in college hockey compete, and the numbers back it up. In the past 8 years, 6 teams in national title games and a run of 4 consecutive national championships, 2 Hobie Baker winners, and 46 All-Americans. More than 70 alumni in the NHL with multiple Stanley Cup champions. A leader and innovator in the sport, including a one-of-its-kind pod. One conference, creating champions and improving the game. This is the NCHC.
Really, JR? You think you can still do this?
I'm focused.
You're way too old to hit that target from there.
I've been listening to everything you said. It's been running through my head, locked and loaded.
All right, still got it. Still got it.
Who's old now?
More than 140 live games from the nation's best college hockey conference. Ready for you wherever you are, however you want to watch. Your favorite team is on NCHC.TV. On your phone, tablet, or stream to your TV. Subscribe now to watch the best in college hockey at NCHC.TV. If it's NCHC hockey, it's on NCHC.TV.
All right, welcome back in, folks. Episode 3 of the Pro Hockey West Report. Scott Strande with you, Nick Maxson, Stephen Marsh, breaking it all down for you. We talked development camp in the first part of the show. Great interview, Stephen, with Connor Ford. And let's move on now, and let's do the fun little exercise that I threw at you guys when I found it on Cap Friendly. It's a starting point is what it is. We know that these may not be the rosters when things get going. And we also know the up and down and the changes at the AHL level. Guys go to the ECHL, they come back up. Some guys go up to the NHL. They move around. But, Nick, we're going to start with you. We each got 3 teams. Why don't you take Coachella Valley and Seattle and just take a look at that roster. These are guys that we haven't seen yet because Coachella Valley hasn't had a team. When they start and actually can play in that brand new building, they're not only going to have new coaches, a new building, a new name, a new logo, but they're going to be with the part of the Seattle franchise that's been around for a year.
Yeah, and these expansion type dual roles, Scott, is very interesting. So when you look at what Cap Friendly has put together, right? So this is a projected roster here for Coachella Valley. I think they're going to be playing in, if not the second most beautiful rink. Sorry, Steve. I think actually the first. It's a gorgeous arena that they're building down there in Indio. But so who's going to have the pleasure to playing with, right? So as far as the forwards go, Cole Lind, a young forward here for Seattle, I think who will crack a pipe. How about Austin Polganski? We talk about former North Dakota players at the ripe old age of 26. He's projected to be with their AHL squad. Max McCormick, a little bit of a seasoned vet at 30 years old. Alex True, 25-year-old, can play both center and wing, native of Denmark. And then we get to some names that maybe you heard of, maybe you're not, right? And this is sort of that transition because reminder, Seattle and I believe was a Florida were sharing their minor league squad this past year. So, some names kind of go back and forth, but you have Jesper Froden, you have Andrew Portaleski. These guys, more AHL veterans, 27, 28 years old, respectively. Cameron Hughes, this is a guy that, Scott, a little bit, right? Yep. 25 years of age, can play both center as well as left wing. Carson Twarnarski, Luke Henman, Ville Petman, these guys, more on the younger side. And then as you get towards the blue line, Gustav Olofsson, a little bit of a seasoned AHL vet. I got a former Minnesota Wild defenseman, left shot there. Brogan Rafferty, also another seasoned AHL vet. And then you have some newcomers, Riker Evans, and then Petro Sepala, again, the Finnish defenseman, 21 years of age. And then also some names that maybe our old friend Paul over there on Long Island might know very well. How about Joey Decord, the goaltender, a former Arizona State goaltender there, 25 years of age. Magnus Hellberg, again, another AHL vet. And then some loaned projections. This is Ryan Winterton, Jacob Melanson, and Ty Cardia, all 3 forwards, all three being projected to go back to their Canadian junior squads. So it's interesting, Scott, right? Because we can do all these roster projections, but it's even more difficult for an expansion AHL squad where, as you notice, there wasn't a ton of names on that board. You didn't have a full roster there. You're going to have some decisions to make. You may be able to sign some free agents, who, whether it's the ECHL or the AHL. So it's a very tough roster to pick. But if there's anything that you can take from what Seattle has been doing, that is, they're going to want some offense. They're going to want to try to curtail some offense. They're very thin at that position, even at the NHL squad level. And with Danny Bilesma there behind the bench there, you know darn well that offense is going to be something he wants to run down there in the Coachella Valley area. So interesting names, a couple names we know, a couple names that we maybe have seen before, some newcomers, some ones that may not be sticking around, but that's what at least we have so far with them on the Coachella Valley side, Scott.
Well, as Stephen can attest to, and I can as well, when Vegas came in, they spent a couple of years cohabiting with Chicago and sent their minor league because they just didn't have enough for a roster. I also want to piggyback on the Joey Decord thing. If anybody was on Twitter today and follows Joey Decord, you saw him walking around and saying he was a bit jealous of the new rink at ASU and going like, man, I wish I could have played in here, but I'm glad that I was part of the group that built this, that allowed this to be built. And then he ended it by saying, who knows? Maybe I'll play the Arizona Coyotes here. When we did the podcast on Tuesday night, Paul Hornstein said, come on, Ronnie Francis, if you're watching and listening, you need to make sure that Joey Decord is your goaltender when the Seattle Kraken play Arizona in Arizona this year. So we'll see.
That that has to happen.
You think it has to, right? It would make all things equal, but
it would. It would,
Yeah.
and Scott, not to butt in, but I don't know if we checked lately, but Seattle's goaltending, duo isn't really set in stone for me. Honestly, they spent some money, or should I say, that Philip Grubauer went towards the money. Probably didn't play to that contract value at $5.9 million per season. Again, Chris Driedger, who was very highly touted when he was with Florida, didn't really have the same success either as a backup. So to me, the door's wide open for Joey Decord. I think he gets an invite to the NHL camp to give them some competition. I noticed, I think, another couple of goaltenders that they have listed a little bit higher in the depth chart. But to me, there is no set goaltending tandem right now for that Kraken. And granted, defensively, one of the worst teams in the NHL. And again, part of that's just being an expansion team, but goaltending was an issue for them. So Joey may very well get his wish sooner than he'd like.
And it's not like he doesn't have the experience. I mean, he did get into an NHL game, I believe, at least one that I know of. And he did, and he got to play in Charlotte last year, which was what Seattle
was. He was really good. He was really good for Charlotte. So okay, Steven, San Jose Barracuda getting a brand new building, brand new group of guys that threw you a curveball because I can tell that you weren't ready for it. That's okay. That's what I do.
Throwing that curveball as a baseball
guy
right now.
Yeah,
baseball guy. That's right.
All-Star game going on.
All-Star game week. Yeah, exactly. There was a big softball game in Vegas too, which we'll talk about.
We'll get to that at the very end of tonight's show.
San Jose was the Barracuda. Yeah, you mentioned new arena. They're gonna have a new arena as well. We're all gonna hope to be there in September for the rookie tournament, because that's where the rookie tournament's gonna be this year for the teams out here at West. And they have a new coach, which is a big deal too, which is going to be a big change there from what the coaching move has been made. And so we talk about their roster, and I had to find out they have a lot of their guys that's projected. Jasper Weatherby, Scott Reedy, some of these guys that were played last year with San Jose, like Alexander Chemovetsky, Thomas Bordeleau. Remember him from last year. Adam Raska. CJ Swiss, Andrew Agazzino, people like Dylan Hamulik, Timur Abraham, Danielle Gershenson. I can't even say some of these names. Max Veranu, Mitchell Russell, Jacob Manga. We know that last name at least, the Manga last name there.
Jason's older brother.
Jason's older brother, right. Nikolai Knisov, Santeri. He just did this, so you gave me all these hard names. Santeri.
Steve, like a true broadcaster, this is what you got to do. First of all, a couple of things. I only see your forehead, one, and number, and so do the folks watching home. But number two, you got to say it. You got to say it with confidence.
Yeah,
say it with confidence. Even if you butcher it, you got to say it with confidence.
Yeah, that's right. I'll skip that one. How about Nick Cicek? Aaron Dell. That's an easy name. And Strassman, William Eklund, Ozzy Westblatt. So there's a mixture there of some new guys for sure. San Jose is that organization's an organization where they're looking at some new things, and they have they were the one of two teams in the Pacific last year that didn't make the AHL playoffs. So obviously they're looking to really improve themselves, obviously, and the whole organization itself is set from the top to the bottom. So hopefully the new arena will help. They'll get some buzz with that. They have a new coach in there, a younger guy in there too, as Roy Sommer moved on, and I think he's got a job somewhere else now. That didn't take very long.
Didn't take long. Right.
So it's gonna be good. And like I said, the roster will look a little bit probably like that, or certainly it'll be similar to that, or could be different in a lot of ways. But they'll be a fascinating team to watch to kind of see where they end up, because like I said, last year they were down towards the bottom, so they're going to want to improve the whole organization from top to bottom.
Steven and Scott, not to butt in, San Jose is in a very unique position this year too, because we'll say it this way, they're probably 3 years overdue, if not 4, from really sort of rebuilding. They've not really looked the same since their 2017 loss to Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final. They've kind of tried to retool pieces here and there on the fly. They have no young talent. Stephen, I want to ask you this. Does the trade of Brent Burns and a couple of other pieces, does that signal maybe some changes are coming now with new GM Mike Greer at the helm? And does that mean that some of these AHL players are going to be counted upon if, say, this team stumbles mightily out of the gate? We're talking about the San Jose Sharks, not the Barracuda, where they may have to move some pieces and they really do embrace a full rebuild.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I think that if you're a young player and you're looking for an opportunity, I think you have a better opportunity to get a look at the NHL level, because I think there's going to be some need there. I mean, I look at last season, they COVID was still a factor, right? And they had quite a bit of COVID issues, and so I think half the Barracuda team at one time went up, and then there was some issues with them and stuff. But so it was kind of interesting that you got players that, some of these teams that are more established, they're obviously right at the cusp of the playoffs, or they're playoff teams, contending for Stanley Cup titles. They're going to have their top guys in there, and they're going to have a few openings because of salary. But it's not, unless some injuries happen, you're not going to have as much of an opportunity to get on an NHL roster. But because of the San Jose situation, and maybe there's some rebuilding there, you're right, new GM, forgot to mention him, and that was significant too, the new GM for San Jose coming in there, and I think it gives a whole fresh look at that, and so these guys will probably get a good look at the NHL level, and probably more of a, so there's some excitement there, I'm sure, for those young players too, to really do their best, because they know that there probably is more of an opening at the big club for San Jose than maybe other organizations throughout the NHL.
Okay, my final comment on that, we'll have to move on because we're running short on time and already as we're trying to move through 9 teams. But my comment is their goaltending is finally going to get better. Strassman is a proven goaltender we saw in the Olympics. He's a proven puck stopper, let's put it that way. And Aaron Dell coming back. I always thought Aaron Dell was a good backup. I don't think he's a solid number one in the NHL, but he's been around. He knows
it's a homecoming for him. It's kind of a homecoming for him.
It is.
He's with San Jose, and then now he's back to San Jose.
Right, and he'll be the guy to help Strassman out. I think it's going to be his position. I think he's even going to give a run at the big club. I'd be shocked because the talent level is there. But anyway, I think the rebuild is fully underway in San Jose from the top to the bottom, and we'll go from there. Okay, I threw in the St. Louis Blues and the Springfield team as well, because with our addition of Lindenwood on the NCAA side, and the fact that we have Canadian teams that we'll cover, but just not on a regular basis. The Blues are unique. They got Martin Frack, whatever you want. That's the greatest last name.
Frack, and apparently he's got a hell of a slap shot.
He's got a great slap.
Yes, it does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. But they got him from Ontario, and he was a force in Ontario, so he's going to be a mainstay, I think, with the Blues. The Blues roster at the NHL level is pretty solid, really. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of room for guys in the AHL to move up. Their goaltenders are going to be interesting. Colton Ellis, Joel Hofer are on the roster right now, looking as the guys that will have. You look at guys like Nathan Todd, Will Bitton. There's just a whole list of guys. They have Scott Perunovich on here. Now, Scott Perunovich has played a heck of a lot of games already in the NHL. I don't see him being in the minor leagues very long, if at all. But anyway, I wanted to touch on the fact that that St. Louis is so deep up front on the big club that may make their AHL club. First, it'll make it a little better, but I don't think there'll be much movement. And Stephen and I talked about this last year, Nick, about a lot of AHL teams are beginning to mirror their NHL team. If the injuries are tough at the NHL level, guess what? The players come from the AHL level. If the team is solid and strong and healthy, you look at Colorado, for example, both the Eagles and the Avalanche had good years. You look at Minnesota, both got good years at Minnesota and Iowa. You go around the board. So that's my thought on St. Louis. We'll get into more detail on that as we go, but I want to make sure we get them all in tonight. So, Nick, San Diego, or who do you want to go to?
Let's go San Diego since it's up,
Okay.
right? So Anaheim, right? there's a lot of opportunities here in Anaheim, right? We still don't know really the situation with John Gibson and whether he's going to be, retaining his services there. Unless you sign him to a $6.4 million extension. That's part of it, right? But look at this. How about this? They're thin just about everywhere. Their longest tenured defenseman is Cam Fowler. He's still got 4 years left on his deal. Then you go to Kevin Shattenkirk, and then it's Jamie Drysdale, then it's John Mahura, and Jura Vekanainen. It's not a deep decor. So there's room for these AHL players that we'll discuss here in a second to make some noise here. And then up front, some stalwarts. You have Adam Henrique, Ryan Strome coming over from the New York Rangers. That's a good pickup for them. Frank Vetrano, Maxime Comtois, Derek Grant. But then you get to the young guns, right? A lot of veterans there, but then you have Troy Terry, you have Max Jones, you have Trevor Zegras. Never heard of him. Totally kidding. Mason McTavish, who's, oh boy, my goodness. I think if
he's going to be a star,
and I think he's going to be an NHL roster. I think this is the one of the few franchises where a small young center like him is going to make an NHL debut almost day one. Sam Carrick, again, kind of a stalwart than Isaac Ludestrom. And surprisingly, no Sonny Milano. I think that was a very interesting, non-qualified offer for them. Now, not saying that, he didn't have his flaws or whatnot, but, with his chemistry with Trevor Zegras, that's not something with hockey that you see let go easily. Yep. And the fact they let him go, and I think they could have kept him for pretty cheap. And there still is technically an opportunity to re-sign him as an unrestricted free agent. But it did surprise me they didn't at least give him a qualifying offer to stay with the big club. So that caught me a little by surprise. So let's take a look at the San Diego Gulls, right? So they're AHL affiliates, Scott. And really, for San Diego, you talk about how when teams are in different fluxes, right? San Diego's kind of in that same way. So let's take a look at who they have. Danny O'Regan, Chase DeLeo, a couple stars up front, Hunter Drew, Bryce Kidnap, Braden Tracy, Jacob Perreault, Justin Kirkland, Maxime Gallo, Blake McLaughlin. Blake McLaughlin, never heard of him before. Former Minnesota Gopher, right? Joshua Lopina and Pavel Reginatus. So here's the big thing. Out of all those names I mentioned, only 2 are above the age of 25. So this is a young forward core, which you talk about, they mirror their NHL counterparts. So again, you talk about how there's some of these players that we mentioned may have an opportunity to earn a spot or two with the big club. So this is a very big list that could be in flux. On the defensive side, Austin Strand, John Moore, Axel Anderson, Olin Zellinger, and Drew Hellison. Again, oldest player 31, and then it's 25, then 22, 21, 18. So another young core. And then on their goaltending side, so it is Lucas Dostal and then Ole Eriksson Ek. As far as those two positions, again, 22 and 23 years of age. And then for loans, right, Pavel Mintyukov, Kelly Kling, and then Sasha Pashtajuov. So both, I should say all three, again, going back to their respective junior clubs / the NCAA. So, but again, similar to what we looked at San Jose, opportunities with the big club. There's opportunities to make a big impression. I think Cap Friendly did nail the Mason McTavish one. They already put him in. They even put him in the AHL prediction. I think he is that talented.
Yeah,
and I think that you're going to have a club down there with San Diego that has had some good seasons. I think they're primed for another good one.
Totally agree. We talked about how young Anaheim was last year, and they're very young in the San Diego Gulls as well.
Boy, I tell you what, I feel old because I remember when Cam Fowler was drafted by the Ducks, man, and he stuck it out, and now you say he's the oldest defenseman they got now. So
he's their longest tenure, and he's their oldest on their roster. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, this shows you how that organization has changed the makeup of it.
No wonder you cut
I take that back.
Great.
Kevin Shattenkirk at 33 years of age. How about this? Cam Fowler just turned 30 years old.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And I do remember his draft year and watching him flourish as a young defenseman. He was fun to watch back in his younger days. Still a very good defenseman.
And he got 2 looks from Niedermeyer. I remember the story. He was living in their house for a while. Now he's got his own place. Obviously, he's married, and so it's just amazing that his development and his career, man. But that's just
okay. Get to Bakersfield for us, Stephen.
Okay, I'll do Bakersfield real quick. I know we're starting to get low on time, so a couple of names I wrote down that I thought were interesting off the list from Cap Friendly that they kind of project would be Brad Malone, and that's a good name. He was a he's a good player for Bakersfield.
67 years old, by the way.
Yeah,
I covered him when he was at North Dakota in 2005 and 6.
Not many players older than Jaromir
Yeah.
Jagr, yes.
Talk about feeling old, right? That will make you feel old, right? 39 points last year with Bakersfield. Somehow he's still able to do what he does. Cooper Marody is a UFA right now, so I don't think he's locked up yet. But I was looking at their website, so that's somebody that could not even on this roster. So I really don't even know if he's going to be, but he would be a big addition for Bakersfield if they can continue to keep him. I'll read a couple names that stuck out to me on the list here. Is Calvin Pickard, which is Golden Knights fans will be familiar with Calvin Pickard a little bit.
One of my favorite goaltenders, by the way.
Yes.
yeah, you gotta love Calvin Pickard. Carter Savoy, of course, the NCAA fans
The
are
DU product.
familiar with him. Yeah, of course. Ryan Fanti, another goaltender. So,
Bulldog.
yeah. So I mean,
don't get me started. I'll go all night.
It seems like a lot of changes to the Bakersfield roster. It seems like a lot. Seth Griffin was somebody with the team last year, but it seems like the Condors, by meaning Edmonton as well, are going to see some changes to their lineup. They also they retained Colin Schalk as their head coach for Bakersfield for next year, so the interim tag is off of him and goes to be So, but again, I mean, so. It's interesting to see what Bakersfield looks like. I mean, Edmonton, again, is a team that made the playoffs last year. They have their roster seems to be pretty good, at least at the top. Of course, you got the McDavid and all the Draisaitl and everything, but there's probably some opportunities you get down to the bottom half of the roster. But, they were a playoff team last year, and they made it to the second round. So, so they, they're going to be able to actually made it to the third round. And so they're going to be able to have that opportunity to contend again. So we'll see what that affects. But it seems like Bakersfield's roster is going to look a little bit different than last year. And that's what we see with these lineups. It seems like there's always a lot of movement going around. So.
Okay, we're going to run way, way short. Either that or go way, way long. So we'll decide. We've got 4 teams to go. I'm going to jump quickly with the Arizona Coyotes. The first name that jumps out at me on their minor league roster is down in Tucson is Laurent Dufon, who they had and they liked and they traded away, and now they were able to get him back. Mateus Maselli is a star in the making. You look at guys like Liam Kirk, the English-born player that'll be down there. Jan Jenik has been a star for the Roadrunners for a long time. Victor Soderstrom is going to start down there again. Don't know if he can crack that Coyotes defensive core. It's gotten better, believe it or not. Their goaltenders, these are going to be interesting. David Kendrick is a solid goaltender. A lot of people don't give him credit. He played a lot behind guys. And then the lone guys that you look at, Dylan Gunther was their best player in development camp last year. They sent him back to minors for a year of seasoning. He's eligible to come up. Do they want to put him up there or don't they? We'll find out. And Connor Geekie just signed his contract. He'll be a good
always love that last name, Geekie.
Yeah, you gotta love that. So we'll see how they put this whole roster together. One thing with Tucson is they're almost a mirror image of the Coyotes, and that's that they're extremely young and inexperienced. And you got to wonder how that's going to work. Are these guys going to get back and forth, or how's it going to play out?
When Tucson finished towards the bottom of the standings last year too, they were the other team that didn't get in other than with San Jose. So that shows you how youthful and inexperienced there.
Okay, Nick.
Yes, we'll do a quick one.
Ontario?
We'll talk about the LA Kings and the Ontario Reign. This will be a quick one, Scott, because there is not going to be a whole lot of opportunity with the LA Kings squad. Because dare I say, they're going to be a playoff contender for sure, much better this year. And how about this? Still plenty of talent, though, on their American Hockey League roster. Just a couple of names I want to throw out. I'm not going to go through all of them. Obviously, everybody's watching Alex Turcotte. Again, he's a player that has cracked the lineup a couple of times. I think he'll get maybe some more opportunities, but at a limited basis. How about this? So Akil Thomas as well as Taylor Ward, some NCAA
Like both of those.
Right?
Like them both.
Yep, and then Tyler Madden, too. A couple names to watch on the forward lines. On defense, not a ton of really big names. So I would say Jordan Spence is a guy to watch. And then I maybe bleed red and black, but on the goaltending end, you mentioned his name. I do think at some point he will get a crack. That's goaltender David Rennick. Again, he got a couple of starts late in the season. Again, you were in attendance for those, Scott. So some good names here, some good foundations. So LA is on the rise. GM Rod Blake has put together a solid roster in both leagues here. And LA is going to be quite a fun organization to watch. And how fit timing, too, because about 10 years after their latest cup run, again, 2012 and 2014, about ready to knock on the door again.
And lucky for you, you're going to be able to cover Ontario, and that building is fantastic. The Toyota Center there is beautiful. It's a little big for AHL, but wasn't built just for AHL, built for concerts. And it is a fantastic spot, and only about an hour and 10 minutes from Palm Springs, so makes that drive easy. All right, Stephen, you got the Henderson Silver Knights. How are you going to do this quick? There's no way that you can do this quick.
Well, I'll
We're
try.
We're running long, folks. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, we are. How about this? How about the aggressiveness is the word I described to Henry. I mean, they have been aggressive trying to really revamp the roster, the Golden Knights, Silver Knights particularly. The additions they've gotten some really top-notch players. They're from going from season 1 to season 2 look different. Season 2 to season 3 is going to look roster. But I mean, they are going to have some familiar faces. At least Cap Friendly predicts that. Paul Cotter, Pavel Dorofeyev, who's pretty talented Russian player. Of course, we're going to probably see Morozov. The goaltending battle will be interesting. You're going to have Logan Thompson. You're going to have Michael Hutchinson, who's a new guy to the organization. Yuri Patera. Of course, we mentioned Isaiah Seville earlier. So that's what I talked about the goaltending aspect. We got to see where Vegas's goaltending situation is going to be. There's some questions about whether the health of the two starting goaltenders for Vegas when the season starts. So where will that put Logan Thompson? Will he get a fix at the big club? I mean, he was really solid last year when he had to come in and stand on his head basically. Even though the Golden Knights didn't really help him out on the offensive end, but yeah. So I mean, he has certainly earned an opportunity to be with the big club. So where does that put Patera? Where does that put Michael Hutchinson? Who's going to get the ECHL? Who's going to, so they're going to be looking at that. But they added Sheldon Rampel, Byron Froese, I mean, Spencer Fu, Kyle Menino, Brandon Estes. Those are some new names that the Silver Knights have added. They also re-signed Quinney and Bischoff, which is not on this roster, but I would imagine they're going to be on the roster. Quinney, of course, is the Vegas-born kid from Las Vegas. Jake Bischoff's been in the organization since the organization started. He didn't get to play last year. He had a long-term injury, so kept him from playing last year. And so hopefully he'll get an opportunity to really play again and get that opportunity. Ron Bjerg, they've re-signed too, so I'm sure he'll be on the AHL roster. He might be somebody that they can look at if to fill a need in the NHL side if there's some opportunity there, because he did get to play some games last year. So Caden Korzak is going to be there. It's going to be. I'm really excited for Henderson. I think Henderson is if they can stay healthy. And that was the thing with last year with Henderson is their health. They had a lot of roster shuffling around because of the Golden Knights situation, and then the Henderson situation. Obviously, calling players up there, and then they had injuries of themselves in Henderson, so they had to call up players either from ECHL or had to sign other players to amateur tryout agreements and stuff that late in the season, like we saw with giving those opportunities, which is great too. But if they can keep this core group together, they're going to be a really strong team. I mean, like I said, Rampel again, 69 points in his season last year with Abbotsford. You got Brian Froese, comes over, played with Stockton last year, has 11 years in the AHL. Spencer Fu is from the KHL. Mananen is from the KHL. So these other guys have played in NHL and AHL games. So there's going to be some experience on this Henderson Silver Knights roster. Of course,
sorry, Colorado. Stephen took all your time. We don't get to talk about you.
No, go ahead. We got to hear about Colorado.
Got to make it quick.
Otherwise, we're not going to get these here.
Got to make it quick. But the Colorado Eagles scared the heck out of me because I watched about 5 guys defect, if you will, for opportunities in the NHL. I think 3 went to Nashville, 1 went to Chicago, and who knows where other guys went. So when I looked at what Cap Friendly had, I was going, oh, this isn't quite so bad. I mean, you got Jean-Luc Foudy coming back, you got Shane Bowers, you got Callahan Burke, you got Alex Bocage, and you got the youngster Oscar Olofsson. You've got talent, and of course Martin Kaut with them as well. So there's a lot of players with talent still on that roster. It scared the heck out of me to see guys leave, but
they lost some really good players. They brought some really good players, but
Jason Megna looks like he's going to make the big club, at least out of the gates. So I'm happy for Jason on that, but I know they're going to miss his leadership. Jacob McDonald will be back, and more than likely will be the captain. The defensemen, of course, Keaton Middleton and Wyatt Ahmet became a top pair. They'll continue to be the top pair, no doubt, as long as they can stay in the minor leagues. I still think Wyatt's got a shot at being the first call-up for the Avalanche defensive core. And goaltending, what do we expect out of this? I mean, you got Jonas Johansson, who they picked up. They thought he was going to be a good NHL backup. Didn't really materialize. Now he's down in the minor leagues. My good friend Hunter Miska has moved on. Justus Anunen will be the starter, no doubt, in the AHL franchise. And Trent Miner, who got some chances between the ECHL and the AHL last year, will be back as well. So there's a lot of talent in Colorado. They'll be looking to improve. I know that they open the season October 21st at the beautiful Budweiser Event Center in Loveland. We'll get into more detail, I promise, guys, as we go. I kind of overloaded us with information tonight, but that's all I got. You guys got anything more?
We are about 8 weeks from NHL training camps.
I thought you were going to say we're about 8 weeks over.
Almost, Scott. I think with that being said, Scott, I will say so long to episode 3. Thanks to everybody who is watching and following us along here on the Pro Hockey West Report. We'll see you back here at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time here next week here on Pro Hockey West.